only a couple chapters ago, we got information finally on two of the kingdoms that we hadn't known a lot about, that being the Heart Kingdom and the Spade Kingdom. And from within them, we found out some kind of like chilling, dark, like ominous vibes about the Spade Kingdom. Even talking about like a pretty much like a horror creature that like sleeps underneath their kingdom and that pretty much seems to either control it or empower them. Possibly a demon, but I mean, it's even called like what the country of demons. So that with their country, it seems like we're going to be end up getting much more of a large scale like deep dive into the other dimension that we found out from the word devil. But we know with the Diamond Kingdom, it's going to be much more of a kind of like rebellion against their kingdom because we know that they're members of them are being controlled. They want to take down Morris and that whole environment. So eventually, when we get to that, we'll have the main cast probably aiding their kingdom in, and like I said, a civil war, some form of rebellion, coup d'état sort of instance. But with the Heart Kingdom is, I think, in my opinion, I don't know why I said I think in my opinion, is in my opinion, what I would think is the most interesting of them. Because we already know information about, like I said, the Dem Kingdom, very militaristic. They've got some control issues going on with Morris pretty much the one going in man. With the Spade Kingdom, they're obviously very kind of like loose laid out, but you can kind of get an understanding of what is gonna, go down once we get there. With the fact that it's called the country of demons. There's some creatures sleeping below the kingdom. But with the Heart Kingdom is talking about how it's all very mysterious in its own self. It's not very much known about it. It's very hidden, and they're also neutral. They aren't really involved in a lot of these other events, and that kind of like laid out like a little bit of a head scratcher, a little bit of a rub the chin kind of moment with what Tabata's doing, because whereas the other two are laid out much more like big war battle arcs, this one kind of laid out more of like the mystery of what separates them. And one of the things about that tacked on top of it is the fact that they are stated to have their own unique magic. And my theory with that, I thought about doing its own video, but I figured it would be. I wanted to tie it into this because I feel like my whole theory going into, like I said in the title, Asta getting a mount, would feel much more kind of like stitched together instead of doing like two 4-minute videos. Probably combine this, and this will probably like 8 or 9 minutes. But when you look at the Heart Kingdom, look at the kind of like the theory of where that's gonna maybe follow under, maybe because like the Clover Kingdom, each of the Clovers means something. The Heart Kingdom, maybe theirs will signify much more of like kind of like feeling, maybe much more of kind of like being a nicer person, maybe not towards just in general, but when you think about the nature aspect, it may be being towards like nature. It's off kept in the jungle, and the fact that they're kind of like kept out of war, maybe they're going to be much more peaceful people. And the fact they have a neutral magic kind of makes me think of what that would be. And when I think about them, these things combining together, I'm wondering if they're going to have much more of like a kind of like animal like magic. And I don't mean like, oh, getting beast parts on your body like Vito with his magic. I think it'll be much more of kind of, you end up kind of taming a creature. Maybe their magic involves like, oh, kind of like applying it, kind of like imagine like Pokemon kind of merged into Black Clover, where the characters in the Heart Kingdom, maybe they have their own animal companion and they put their magic on them. I guess maybe not Pokemon is the best thing. I guess Zatch Bell would be the best thing to really kind of compare it to, since that's pretty much how it was putting magic into creatures from another world, though they were demons. But obviously, the demonic thing isn't important here. But it would be animals. So what I mean by this having like some importance to what it can have in the story, like I said, the Diamond Kingdom rebellion, gaining over and overthrowing their kingdom and gaining aid. I think that's going to need to happen before going against the Spade Kingdom, because they're clearly the most powerful out of the four. And the Heart Kingdom in this, I'm wondering where they're going to tie in. So if they end up going there, one thing that I think is really interesting about it is, out of all the characters right now, Asa's the only one that doesn't have really a mode of transportation even possible to him, because even like laid out early in the series when they went over with Desasi Village with Magna, you had Noelle who couldn't ride a broom because she couldn't control her magic properly, and Asta obviously not having any magic, so he couldn't use a broom. And with that, there's very limited options for him, because he could end up, he has like his black form, he has like a level of flight with it, increased speed and whatnot. But I doubt, like, if you're like, hey, we need to go over to this area, Asta's just gonna waste the time, energy to go into that form, and then pretty much just like black meteorite over, a couple miles. Stop, do it again. That feels like it'd be too taxing for him. And um, the only other thing would be like if he ended up either getting someone just to always like catch a ride with and be a bum, or he ended up getting like a magical kind of transportation that's just fueled by somebody else, but then that would be completely dependent on another person. Whereas I think that this kind of would go into, and if you weren't, you didn't pick it up already as I'm saying, if you have a kingdom that is all about like, tame an animal of some kind, you befriend them and you apply their abilities to them. Imagine Asta getting a creature, and obviously you can like look at this picture as obvious Photoshop. This is Nosferatu Zod from Berserk, and if you know anything about Tabata, he's a big Berserk fan. That's actually his favorite manga. And you could get something like that because one of the things in Berserk, there's a point where both Griffith and Guts both ride Nosferatu Zod, and you could have something like maybe Asta will get some creature in the Heart Kingdom that seemed untamable, but he's maybe able to figure out a way to do it just because, Asta being stubborn, kind of like trying to sync with him, and maybe they can bond over being like thick-headed, kind of like stubborn animals. And that would be really cool if you got something like this. Maybe not literally like a giant horned lion creature with like bat wings, but imagine some kind of like large creature. It'll honestly, I feel like if it goes down this path, it'll probably be something similar because I don't feel like Tabata would want to pass up on that kind of like little nod towards having a Berserk reference there because how much he loves Berserk. But not only with that, it would have Asta getting a mount and having a companion. And I know a lot of people are kind of going over the idea of Sekri being maybe getting like a higher level of transformation than just a bird. I get that, but hear me out of why I think this would be cooler. Because Sekri, in that scenario, she still has magic. You can have an animal, and keep in mind, like, imagine the animals in Black Clover, because we already know that there are magical creatures and there are just normal animals. Imagine some form of kind of like mythic beast that doesn't have magic, but it's like, oh, in this land, the animals are very, like, conductive towards, funneling magic, and then Asta knocking on his head realizes something like later on, hey, what can I do to up this? Because one thing right now is Asta, having his form. Eventually, he'll have a full body form, which I think will be much further along the way because he got his normal black form, almost 100 chapters in the series, and it was almost 100 chapters later he got an advanced form during the whole thing with the Word Devil, pushing his power up. But would be a cool way to progress like his control over the anti-magic without just giving him like, oh, how do I show it? Maybe another form level, like just slightly more upgraded. What if he had a creature like this? Just imagine Nosferatu Zod in his demon form. Just go with that for right now. But then Asta, like, riding him, channels his anti-magic into him. So you have this big, like, beast instead of magic, because, like, maybe he's in a kingdom where it's like, oh, yeah, normal thing is like, yeah, we put magic into their creatures. And Asta, already being, like, similar to Maniskin, he clads himself with anti-magic. He clads a creature with anti-magic. And just imagine, like, something like this. Maybe it's just a lion. Maybe it's just some form of, or like a bear or something. I guess it'd be probably like, I don't know, what, like a bull bear hybrid or something. And then the anti-magic clad onto that kind of makes it more into this kind of Nosferatu Zod-like creature. Oh my god, just like that extra thing. Like, I thought of more of just like he finds a cool creature and then he puts anti-magic on. Imagine it just being a normal creature. And then it's the anti-magic that turns him into this buffed version that could lead into Berserk reference, but also progression for Asta, while at the same time, it would be like a cool addition to what he can do, also getting a companion, plus it would show like an advancement of his control over anti-magic, which would just be a win in so many levels. So tell me what you think in the comments. I mean, this was a very much multi-pronged kind of video, like, hey, here's the Heart Kingdom, here's what I think is going to be what they do in the series, their importance in the story, here's what I think their magic is going to be. But really, what I want to talk about is where I think that'll lead to Asta and progression. So, tell me what you guys think. Obviously, this is a wild theory. This is very much just loose theories right now. It could be completely different. This could not happen even close to. It could just be, whatever. Maybe it's a bunch of people that don't even use magic. Maybe it's, I don't know. I can't really think of shaman stuff, whatever. But tell me what you guys think. I would like to hear. And I want it. my theory to come through, not just to be like, haha, I called something. I just love this idea now that Asta getting some like cool animal and then kind of like He-Man into you know, what is, I don't know what his cat is named, but it turns into what, Battle Cat, and then you know he goes from like a wimpy tiger to like this green armored like beast. So you get something like that for Asta, you know, get some like weird bear bull or something, and then it just becomes a big horned demonic kind of creature, kind of like Ostis when he puts on his black form. Other than that, comment below. Tell me what you guys think about this, and I really appreciate your thumbs up the video, friend the like button and the subscribe button, and check out my other videos. From that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.